The first speaker is the father of Industry 4.0, so it's a great pleasure to have you here. And as a general statement, of course, it's also a great pleasure and honor that this new index is presented here at Embedded World in Nuremberg. First speaker, as I said, is Henning Kagermann. He has been president of acatech, our National Academy of Science and Engineering, from 2009 to 2018. Since 2018, he holds the chair of the acatech Board of Trustees. acatech provides independent and science-based advice to policymakers and civil society. In 2017, Henning Kagermann was appointed global representative and advisor of the platform Industry 4.0 by the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy and the Federal Ministry of Education and Research. He also holds the chair of the steering committee of the Zukunftsrat, so advisory board on future issues, or how to translate this, of our German chancellor. As a former member of the German federal government's high-tech forum and the Industry Science Research Alliance, he plays a key role in the promotion of strategic projects such as Industry 4.0, web-based service innovation, smart services, and autonomous systems. Henning Kagermann holds a postdoc thesis in physics and is former CEO of a well-known company, SAP. So again, great pleasure, great honor to have you here. And we are very much looking forward to your presentation, to your speech on smart services and the future of value creation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you know what smart services are. But I think you have asked yourself the question several times, what the new business models of a digital economy are. And this is a question that came up several decades, but 2015, our answer, and ours, that means a working group with about 100 experts, came up with the answer, smart services. And smart services, these are concepts which don't fall just out of blue sky. There is a kind of a prehistory, and I would like, let's say, to dig into this history just with the first 2 or 3 slides to see that not so much has changed, but to discuss later on a little bit what the reasons are why we are, let's say, more progressing now. Now, in 2005, so that's a long time ago, and what you mentioned was SAP. SAP commissioned a global survey, in particular to C-level executives, and more than 2,000 participated just to ask them, what is on your innovation agenda? What's on top of your innovation agenda? And the answer today might be boring, but at that time it was surprising that the majority worldwide said that business model innovation is, not will be, is more important than product innovation. And then we felt that is a topic we should dig deep into and published a book a few years later, which was titled IT-Driven Business Models. And the starting point was the, I think, very simple observation that enterprise value comes from customer value. But it means that companies have to understand the customer process, and in order to understand the customer process, you need data. It's not just calling the client, you need enough data, I think, to find out what his intents, his demand next is. And the other point is that if you dig into the customer process, we believe that over time, it's not enough to just sell discrete or individual products or services. Instead, sell, I would call it a hybrid, that means analog and digital, service product bundle, which exactly fulfills the need of the client. And then immediately to come to the topic of business ecosystems, because that normally is something no company can do alone. So you have to bring complementary services and products, let's say, into your reach in order to bundle that. And the second point is then, let's say, a business ecosystem management. And another point is that it not only changing the, I would say, architecture of the value chain, it also changes the value proposition, because at the end of the day, it's all about, let's say, not selling and buying products, it's more subscribing to services. So therefore, you see here, it's about adaptive business ecosystem, or it was at that time. And the second is, there was this idea of servicization. That means, as a buzzword, from industry to service stream. Now, and these are two old slides, and I only want to highlight these two concepts. And the first is the value proposition. And it sounds simple today, and people were laughing in 2005, but at the end of the day, the story is always the same. A client doesn't go into a store to buy a drilling tool. What he wants is a hole. And the same is for the other topics you find here. It's about they want compressed air, not a compressor. They want gas instead of a gas turbine. They want broken rock instead of dynamite, and so on. These are the typical examples. And at that time, by the way, cloud computing came, let's say, more into the public of the companies, and therefore it was obvious that people said, we don't want a CD any longer, we want software as a service. Now, and the second point is then, are there examples coming out of this time where companies, let's say front runners, try to build such an ecosystem? And there is an example, and I say just up front, this example failed just because technology was not mature enough. But I think you could say 2020, and it is still accurate. And what is this? A company which is a producer of chocolate, for branded chocolate, selling completely through wholesale channel, believes they should come closer to the client because they want to collect client data. And that means to capture at least part of the customer interface. So the question is, okay, which process do we select? And they selected this process, making a gift. And you see the activities you have to fulfill. But the company wants to stick to the core competencies. And what are the core competencies? Branding, producing, wholesale delivery. And all the other things, let's say they have to look outside to find partners. What's missing? Yeah, this is a web shop. The second point is you need small-scale picking from wholesale. And the second is you have household delivery, which is also different, and payment services, which, by the way, was starting to build up. But later on, because the technology wasn't there, it failed. So you see at the end what the idea is. And to some extent, that had a kind of renaissance, because you have it in your mind after the economic crisis, 2008 or 2009, when the government asked, okay, what should we do strategically to survive this downturn better than others? And the first one was we came up with this concept of Industry 4.0, but also embedded in the recommendation was the idea in a second step to talk about the business model of the future based on these principles. And you can ask why Industry 4.0 became such an important brand name worldwide. And I personally believe it's just because this vision was compelling. It was about sustainable growth and strategic agility. And you see here, from the economic point of view, it just picks up what I just said, individualized products to the cost of mass products, value-generating processes optimized to customer demand. On the environmental, I will not only pick up energy and resource efficiency. Important was at that time that recycling is not enough. Upcycling is necessary. Something, let's say, which is now modern there in circular economy. And on the right-hand side, very important, what does this mean for people? And at the end of the day, it was about, let's say, job qualification on the job in smaller pieces, and more or less better and more meaningful world in cooperation, by the way, with our unions. And so if you look, it's just one slide to the first step, then this is a picture you would, let's say, paint today, how a digital factory would look like. In red, a little bit the newer stuff, in dark the old ones, and you see the key notion are digital twins. There's nothing else than merging the physical and the virtual world by building for every tool, every equipment, every machinery, digital representation. And I think at the end of the day, you need a kind of a tool set, which we called asset administration cell. You would say it's a collection of models for different aspects of the physical entity. And I just want to highlight two other things. You see, let's say down on the shop floor that we see more and more now that people convert from rigid, let's say, supply chains to flexible cells. And on the IT side, you see 2005 on-premise. Next step was to build private cloud, might be some public clouds in order to exchange some information with the ecosystem. In the meantime, because of 5G and because of the speed of machine-to-machine interaction, we have more and more edge layers, and therefore you have a kind of a continuum of edge, cloud, on-premise computing, which at the end has requirements to the tools. Now, if that is the piece, if you have this individual product, the next point is, okay, what happens if you put the user in the center, in particular in his respective role? Normally, a person has different roles. And the second is they are in different situations. So situation and role specific. And you see here what I said, personalized, designed to the situation, to the role, and very important, using data. And the final important point is it will be cross-industry. Just take it for this. And therefore, it's obvious that it has to be done in digital ecosystems. And I have picked an example of a collection of companies from different industries which started this project, I would say around 3 years ago. It was before we had the pandemic. And you see on the right-hand side, again, these equipment of a service, this old idea we have seen in 2005. And the question is, what could be next one? And the next one could be either factory cell as a service or even smart factory as a service. You would call it a modern version of contract manufacturing. And for those who don't want to build, let's say, complete digital. What of interest is here, from my personal point of view, that one of these companies was an insurance company. And the point is, what do they want? At the end, they want a guaranteed quality and a guaranteed outcome level. That's what a client wants. It's like wanting a whole. And how can you get it? You can get it if many customers here, not only one, many clients, and you can collect a lot of data. And if you have a lot of data, you can build a probability distribution. And that's what statistic guys like insurance companies need in order to calculate, let's say, the policy price, a reasonable policy price for both. And then you just bundle it into the product service bundle, and that's it. And you can tell the clients, I give you guaranteed quality and outcome. Okay. The second point is ecosystems. And I just want to remind us what it means. And it's not that easy. I think we have seen many companies down in the exhibition here who are on this way. And I'm on a board of one of these companies, and they bring more and more software in to make software, I would say, easy to use for customers. And that means a completely different software architecture, which isn't that easy. People believe it's just a few APIs, which is not true. It's modularization, it's isolation, it's containerization, etc. And at the end is to create solutions which can run on tiny edge, middle edge, cloud, on-premise. And that's not that easy. So it's a lot people have to do on the technical side. But even more important at the end is if you get all your partners on board, you have to align not only on the technical specification, you have to align on the business goals and on the legal framework, because you are doing business together. So you need a code of partner conduct. And you need kind of certification to tell clients, okay, what levels these partners have. Then you need a community platform. That's the matching of the business. We all know how it works. And we know that's where sometimes, let's say, IT companies come in because they have the analytical capabilities to do that. So that is what companies have to do if they want to be there. Here I have collected at the end the 4 steps. I just want to highlight, I would say, the 4 key buzzwords we have to have in mind. For the digital factory, number 1 is the digital twin. For the digital enterprise, the number 1 are the smart services, as I just explained. If you want to build a digital ecosystem, it's all about networkability. On these 3 levels I just explained. And then if you want to build, let's say, a digital economy, you need a framework for global collaboration, and that we would call today data spaces. And in particular here in Europe, what we are doing is we are not building huge data lakes or data oceans. We build more, I would say, exchanges where people peer-to-peer exchange data, which to the end guarantees data sovereignty. So I skip this because of time. I just want to mention here that since 2013, we in Germany, let's say, work 200, 300 experts on these topics, on both, on smart services and on Industry 4.0. And because we have, let's say, a team of experts that's working on it, they have to advance the vision. It's obvious. And a few years ago, they tried to extend the original vision to 2030, and you see here what was key was the notion of sustainability in a broader way than we had it at the beginning. And I just want to pick this topic of circular economy, not new ways of hybrid working. And what I normally do is I take this simple picture, which is also 5 years old, just to explain what has to be done. You need a life cycle approach. And you can see here that at least 2/3 is already covered with Industry 4.0 and smart services. So the first is you need the right materials, more regenerative. That's outside of our scope. Okay, let's do it. Then it's about design. You have to design products for all these abilities, repairability, reusability, remanufacturability, what we are not doing today. The second is resource efficiency in production. I covered this with Industry 4.0. Then it goes down into use, and here it's as a service. And as a service, we know. Underutilized assets, we all know it. Everybody has a car. He knows what an underutilized asset is. So that's the other point. What's missing is at the end the recollection infrastructure for recycling. That's a separate topic. But I just wanted to highlight that with these topics, we solve, I would say, 70 to 75% of the issues of a circular economy. So therefore, let me come to before we come to my colleagues, with 2 remarks from my side. It's more from experience. I always believed, and I believe for the future, that all business will be bimodal. And it depends on the type of business, of the stage of maturity of the business, how much you're on the left-hand side, that you optimize existing businesses, and how much you build new one, how much you differentiate. That is changing. And you see here the highlights, established business model, new digital business model. 2 things I want to point from this slide. The one is, to the left-hand side, you can also, in this area, with simple and cheap smartening techniques, I think, have a kind of a brownfield approach and start to optimize without building really a full-fledged Industry 4.0. But if you want to do it, I think you have to have in mind, from a cultural point of view, it's about decentralization, it's about autonomy, and that doesn't not only mean machines, that means also people. And on the other side, it's obvious, to the left-hand side, we have rigid automation, predefined, and on the right-hand side, we have adaptable through learning. That's clear. And my second point is, yes, we all know this. If you want to be agile, you have to be fast. And this is a slide from the first publication of the Maturity Index Industry 4.0. So we have to shorten and reduce the time between something happening. Let's say production line goes down, or even worse, we have a crisis, and the entire supply chain has to be re-architectured until response is coming. And that are different areas, and that's at the end what the goal is. And that was a point why we decided in 2017, let's say, to come up with, I would say, a guideline of ideas and proposals how companies could analyze, understand, implement the principles of Industry 4.0. We, let's say, made an update in 2020, and I'm happy that today, I think, the colleagues have developed the same thing for smart services, so it closes the loop. Thank you very much. Looking forward to your presentation. Thank you.